Hey, this is Notser, and this is going to be a video dedicated to 0.6.0, and it's going to be a Japanese battleship build, or at least what I might consider going in a Japanese battleship. Now, it says Amagi, but it's going to be a Nagato game. I basically moved my commander up, and this is what I got. So, some of the skills I did not take. I earned the XP to take them after the fact, but I do know priority target tells you how many people are targeting you, expert loader, faster rearm, if you have the shell fully loaded. That is interesting with a skill I'm going to take later. I did, however, take the Catapult Fighter, the extra Catapult Fighter. And for the fighter, it basically is evenly spaced 2 fighters over your battleship. The AA protection's great, and it's sort of a cheap hydroacoustic to warn you of torpedoes incoming. I like it. Picked up expert loader, of course, why not? Would you not take it? And I don't believe I had enough for high alert at the time. Also, superintendent. Superintendent is great for the extra heal, but one skill I took, fire prevention. Now, it's way better than the one on the live version. The live version is only that minus 7% chance to risk the risk of fire, which is pretty crappy because it's multiplicative, and the multiplicative variant is like 0.2%. It's really bad. But look at that. The maximum number of fire sources on a ship is reduced to 3. What does that mean? I'll tell you. It combines the superstructure, the 2 points on the superstructure, into 1. Most of the time, when you are set on fire, they set both of the superstructures, and that's basically all they can get lit on fire, right? This is pretty awesome. It's going to reduce the damage you take drastically. 70 to 80% of the time, you will not have your bow or your stern on fire. So it's extremely useful, extremely way better for battleships than the previous version, and I would not be surprised if every single battleship took this skill after the changes. You'll see it in game, don't you worry. And then here's this is a skill I wanted to try out. Inertia fuse for HE shells. HE shells now have a penetrating value. It lowers the chance of the HE shell to light the target on fire by 6%. But as you know, it's not a big deal in battleships. You got like 35%, and now it's 29 or 30. Big deal, right? That's exactly. It's pretty ridiculous against the destroyer or a battleship that is angled. It's just extra DPS. You will absolutely use HE in those scenarios, and you will kill someone very, very quickly. So we'll see an example of that. And finally, I just want to talk about the system that they're inputting. You'll notice that the commander tells you how many skill points you have, right? It's a little bit more obvious how the commander is, what nation he is associated with. It's really nice. There is an elite commander status that you can get, so you store up XP on the commander. You can choose to redistribute it, to respec it. You see that little redistribute? I can select between doubloons and the elite commander XP. So it's pretty cool. You can convert the commander XP to free XP if you want. Just more ways for doubloons to be useful. I know. But it is nice that you don't have to spend any doubloons to respec if you so choose. Now, it's basically requiring that you get a whole nother level, but at least it's there, right? Right. And yeah, the XP is like all weird. It's a little weird. I think that's the total XP that you will have to earn, but it's obviously a test. So, this is the game. We are in the Tier 7 Japanese Battleship Nagato on the map Two Brothers, and I am going to be showing off the catapult, the HE, and the fire prevention. Now, that is probably the trifecta of battleship upgrades that you can choose to take. I also think radio is ridiculous in a chase scenario where maybe you've got a couple targets that you need to find out. There's really no other way for it to be described as an ability that's just straight up giving you more information than maybe you deserve. But you have to choose, right? Do I go secondary build? Do I go HE build? Do I go AA? Do I go radio? Concealment. This is just a test. I don't know if HEAP is the right way to go. It feels pretty good in a battleship, and we're going to check that out. Okay? Alright, so multiple enemies spotted, headed over to D point. We have friendly destroyers over there, and I'm sort of holding on to HE in the hope that an enemy destroyer will show himself. And yes, we get an Ernst. So I'm going to fire my guns at it, and we're going to see how much damage we actually do. And it looks pretty good. Well, one single shell made contact. One single shell made contact for 2,000 damage. That felt really high. Like, really high. I know it's only a single shell Notser, but if I were to land 50% of the shells that I fired, which would be 4, that would be 10,000 damage. So I'm going to fire on another Ernst and see how well we do. And yeah, we took him out. 3 shells, 5,300 points of damage. Remember, HE has a penetrating factor now because of that skill that I took. The inertia, what is it? Inertia shell for HE, whatever it's called. We call it HEAP. It's really good, and oh, you poor thing. He ran into his friend, so I'm going to try and fire at him. It looks like he's going to try and back up, so I lead him in reverse. Enemy torpedoes are incoming, and what? We hit... we hit the water close to him. We didn't actually get as many shells on target as I would have liked. Oh, come on. But he's out in the open. He's probably going to die. The destroyers are not helping themselves. And the reason I chose HE, there are 6 enemy ships in the game. 6 enemy destroyer ships in the game. That's a ridiculous amount. Usually you just stick with AP and you overpen and you do that stuff, but the HE shell is very impressive. 5,000 against the Alba. Clearly AP would have been a better solution, and Gneisenau ends his life. The broadside is still very much AP. The only time you don't want to use AP is when the target is angled too much and you're going to get ricochets. Right now, you pretty much just keep AP loaded, hoping that the target will open up more. Now, I'm holding on to HE, firing at the enemy, and I do pretty good. Notice there are 2 fires on my ship, and one fire is taking up the entire superstructure. Another fire was on the bow. Because it was 2 fires, I chose to put it out. But if it was 1, and usually it is, oh, 15,000, that was a great shot by the enemy Bayan. And, of course, we were lit up. Why do you do this to me? So, I need to sit with 1 fire, and there's just enough angle that it would be on the edge between HE and AP. 5,400 is not bad. 4 shells penetrated. It does pretty good damage. It's really impressive how much damage this HEAP shell does. But it's really made for killing destroyers, I think. It is just a massive increase in damage output against the destroyer. Some of you are going to say, well, what if the destroyer is bow on or stern on and I get the perfect penetration to go deep inside and stop? Yeah, you're not going to be able to do that much damage as AP if you get a scenario like that. But if they're perfectly broadside, this is going to do way more damage than that overpin could ever do. And lightly armored parts of the ship just take so much more damage. It's really incredible. It really is incredible how much damage this adds to HE. Most battleships, it's not even a question. You're never going to use HE. Always use AP. Well, now you actually have to think, you know what, is this guy going to be angled? Is he going to be bow on? I felt like the enemy Nagato was showing just not enough side to justify. Instead, I decided to fire on the Bayan with my AP, and I'm really glad I did. 13,000 points of damage done against him. we have an enemy destroyer, and I'm sorry, I don't know why the recording appears to be choppy a little bit. I will have to look into that. I don't know why it's doing that. But we have the enemy Fubuki, and the enemy Fubuki, I'm gonna test with AP. That's what I was saying in the stream, of course. How much AP am I gonna do? And maybe I depress the gun, maybe just a little bit too much. Oh, just barely too much. And this is the worst part of the whole replay. You know what, Notser? It would really help if you could hit the target so we could see a good comparison. Yeah, I bet it would be. I'm trying, okay? Now, I sent out my aircraft. I believe, I swear, that I had the double catapult. And we'll know in a second if a aircraft gets rearmed on the launch pad. Yes, it does. Now, look at this. Look at this. We take, obviously, damage from the enemy, but we're relaunching another fighter, one after the other, and it doesn't use up the amount of aircraft. He sort of fades in, fades out. That's just a new effect that they've added. Here's an AP shot on the target. 3,700. 3 shells made contact. If I had the exact same amount of shells make contact, I would have killed that guy. That's the difference between the AP and the HE and the way it works now, if you take that skill. But look at the aircraft overhead. They actually rotate different directions. So you've got this weird air cover that you've never really had, except for in, I think, alpha or closed beta. You could manipulate the air supremacy and have more aircraft on like a Yamato. But you've never really had this ability to have multiple aircraft overhead protecting just you. And it's pretty cool. It only costs 1 skill point. It's just so dirt cheap. It's honestly probably going to be one of those skills you just take as a battleship. Maybe even a cruiser. It just gives you extra information. It protects you from aircraft. It acts like a hydroacoustic to get you over something if torpedoes might come that way. People don't really expect the double aircraft just yet. I'm sure they will, but they don't right now. And I'm deciding, who do I want to go after, the Mas or the Bayan? So we're going to go after the Mas. And I'm loading HE. I want to see how HE works against an ideal broadside. And by the way, sorry if my audio sounds weird. This is actually with compression, and maybe I put too much compression. I wasn't aware I sounded like this. I'll have to adjust it. Either way, we fire at the enemy, and of course, we didn't elevate the gun enough. Embarrassing. We incapacitated something. The friendly Shirat Suyu is engaged in close quarter combat. It's not the best scenario having a German destroyer in close proximity to a Japanese. Their guns are just better. I mean, they just are. And their torpedoes rearm quicker, so probably going to have torpedoes. But it looks like it's a joust scenario. Both send torpedoes, both need to angle away. It looks like my guy did not succeed. I hit and only did 1,000, and we missed completely. He's going to hide in his smoke. And what? Come on, Notser. These shots are so easy. But to be fair, I was just trying to get the maximum amount of my HE shells to make contact. Maybe I wasn't being as safe with the shot selection. I don't know. It was just bad shots, okay? They're just bad shots. I feel like the enemy destroyer is going to come around the island, and I'm going to be able to fire on him at least once, and we're detected. Looks like he had us selected, and then obviously he doesn't, because I'm not detected anymore. He's going towards a friendly Mas, and I don't want that. I would prefer that I kill him. Boy, this recording is so bad. I am really, really, really sorry about this. It's unacceptable. I'll fix it. I absolutely will fix it. So, enemy Mas is showing a little bit, and we're elevating the gun. Hopefully we hit him. It looks pretty good. Only 1,000, but it's only 1 shell. Yeah, it could have been better. Is this going to be better? 2,000. 1 shell again. Well, 2,000 is better than 1,000, and we earned Confederate on that salvo. And I just want to finish this guy off. The game is fairly close. but we're going to get this guy. We got the aircraft coverage. There's not going to be a real issue of torpedoes. I just really want to kill him. I don't want it to be kill secured or anything like that. Man, yeah. We only needed one of those shells, but we looked like we had 3 or 4. And, oh, are you serious? Enemy Bayan is showing up behind us. So this is the angle target that this HEAP shell is supposed to address. There's not going to be a perfect angle that the enemy battleship can use to avoid taking damage. If he is overextended, and if he can't aim properly, he's just going to be DPS down. Because the HE, not as much AP damage, but it's still going to be way higher in this exact scenario than it was previously. So we do 3,000. Okay, we set the target on fire. Not bad, right? Maybe I would do 1,500, 2,000. It feels like you just get a little bit more per salvo. Maybe 30% more damage, 20%. I have to play it more, but it just feels like it's a better choice to have this against a target that is higher skilled than maybe the average battleship captain. This is not an average battleship captain. He knows about angling. He knows about limiting. Oh man, that dispersion was so bad. But one shell! One shell for 2,000. One shell. It didn't ricochet. These can't ricochet. It's just more consistent, right? It's really going to revolutionize what you actually decide to do in a battleship. Because you could go the secondary build of the Germans, tier 8, 9, and 10. You can't really go that in a lot of other battleships because of the limited range. Also, the limited DPS. And right now I'm just trying to trade. I'm just trying to have higher DPS than he does against my ship. He seems to be using AP. I am using HE in almost the exact same scenario. I angle to show myself in order to get a little bit more DPS on the target. And he is showing a perfect broadside. So I would ideally have AP loaded for this exact scenario. AP will outperform this HEAP. And you can tell. You can tell. Some of it didn't penetrate. Others just did minimal damage. And in fact, I think we hit the gun. So when we hit the guns, it seems that they fully absorb and they don't actually do damage. We earned Arsonist, Dreadnought, Confederate, 75,000 damage done, 2,083 base XP. The friendly Liberite Mas did a great job for our team. And hopefully this showed off fire prevention, the Catapult Fighter, and the HEAP shell for battleships. I will be exploring more classes in the near future for 0.6.0. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.